Okay, I'm about to ask these guys a question, and they don't know what I'm about to ask. That's my drumming. Okay.
Okay.
What thing or things?
What?
What thing or things from science fiction do you think will never come true?
Oh, I'm gonna have to say this without a doubt. Faster than light speed. Never gonna happen.
Really? Because
Are you going to argue? Are you going to argue with Einstein? Are you going to argue with Einstein?
Einstein
I will
was
argue with Einstein
smart,
every day of the week.
but he didn't know everything, and I think that transporters are perhaps never going to happen.
Okay.
Matter transportation from here to there. I'm not sure that will ever happen. I can, if I had to list it, Steve, I should say,
Okay. Yeah.
The transporters in science fiction, whether it's Star Trek or any teleportation, outside of a time travel situation. Okay. That's a whole different thing.
Yep.
But a transporter transporting matter from one place to another would be, I think, at least one notch above light speed, like you say, as we know it in Star Trek or Star Wars or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
Chris,
I'm gonna address each one of these after. I want to hear all your
I'm
answers.
so nervous.
And I'm
I
gonna address
know
them.
who's
I'm
totally
kind of
wrong.
thinking like the holodeck. I do not buy how that's like. I'm sure we'll see variations of a holodeck, but in the way that it's depicted in Star Trek, I don't think is possible.
That's interesting.
That would be solid. You could have solid matter,
but like
a holodeck, as opposed to just being in a room where projections are there and you're interacting with the projections, but it's not solid.
Yeah, it's like I could see variations of it, but in the sense you could have a small room, but there was like no distance. Like it doesn't seem like distance is a real problem. Like I know this is where it gets complicated, because in Encounter at Farpoint, they say very clearly there is a wall there, and if they go past it, they can't do anything. But then in later shows, it seems like they just never seem to address the wall ever again. It doesn't seem like that's even an issue. Like no one says, hey, we can't go past it because of the wall. They just carry on. And it's like the computer will then somehow figure out where you are and then just keep changing the perspective. So I don't buy that being possible.
And two different people in different places on the holodeck in different parts of the fantasy can't see each other, even though they're in a room where you should be able to see the person. So that's an interesting thing.
I want to address each of those three about kind of what I think about the likelihood of what you guys answered.
I think you should answer first, though. I think
my answer is I am the person who will never say never. And the justification I use for that is picture yourself. It's like the year, whatever 1500. Tell people in the year 1500 that, oh, by the way, you're going to be able to have a real-time conversation with someone on the other side of the planet.
That is,
I mean, seriously, how mind-blowing, like people, because they didn't yet know about electricity and magnetism. And like, there's so much they did not know, so much fundamental physics they did not know.
I always think of that.
Right.
I always think of it, Adeena, as pardon me, please, my friend.
Okay. Adeena at Adeena.com. That's got to be a thing.
Okay. What question I was going to ask? Oh, yes. I always think of it as like sometimes when I'm driving, I used to be a big fan of the Little House on the Prairie show. Fascinated with pioneer life. So like imagine somebody having to do covered wagons across the country and it taking months and months as opposed to the 6 or 7 days, if that, it takes to drive a car across our country now, let alone airplanes and stuff like that. So
that wasn't as big of a, I think if you go from like the 1880s, 1890s to now, I mean, they at least had electricity, or they knew about electricity. It wasn't widely available and stuff. They had steam power. So the concept of technology and evolution and the concept of flight, and there was balloons. There was, Leonardo da Vinci had flying machines, so we're not such a leap. But if you go back further, again, what we're doing right now, seriously, I don't think there was any way you could even describe what we're doing to them, because they didn't have the fundamental physics. So at some point we really knew nothing, and then we learn some fundamental physics. So I maintain that there's possibly fundamental stuff that we still don't know that will enable who knows what. And
I hope I'm wrong.
Well, so I think
I
in
really
the
do.
order of things that you guys described, I think holodeck is most likely. Faster than light travel is next likely. And yet teleportation is the one that I have the biggest issue trying to wrap my head around, like how that would actually happen. So yeah, but again,
Frankly,
we don't know what we don't know.
I don't know how this is like how any of our technology even exists. Like, to me, this might as well be magic. It's a laptop. You know, I just can't imagine that people figured this out. It's just it blows my mind.
Right.
Frankly.
But we did, right? And
Yeah,
so
we did.
there's still, I think there's still a bunch of stuff to figure out.
I hope you're right with transporters and warp drive, but the idea of having a holodeck as depicted in Star Trek, I think is very dangerous. So I don't know if that's a good thing. I don't know. I would.
What do you mean by it's dangerous?
Well, it's just because like how many, like, I'll put it this way, especially if you're looking at a Star Trek, if you're ever in a situation where you have to say, oh wait, I don't know where I am, computer and program, that's a problem. Like, you should know your reality. You should never have to question your reality. That's a problem. And then two, I feel like look at someone like Barclay. I would expect that we'd all be Barclay if there were holodecks, or we would just want to live in the holodecks.
We're already having, I think, again, I'm not an expert in this, but there is, the screen addiction and people.
Oh, for sure.
That already exists. So yeah, I imagine that there will always be some amount of people or stuff who have issues with whatever technology is presented to them. I mean, heck, there are people who have problems going outside their house, there's always going to be problems, and there's always going to be problems with technology and whatever, but there's also always going to be people that use a technology the way it was intended and not go overboard, or I think there'll always be a mix of that. But one of the things that I do relate to work is present day technology, virtual reality. So I feel like I can imagine what it would take to, maybe it's not exactly the way it is in the holodeck. Maybe it's a little bit more like, again, this
VR world.
Like Ready Player One.
VR,
yeah, you have stuff that's simulating the feel, so you might be in a suit, and so stuff feels, it's not really there, but it has still like a feel, and multiple people can be in the same simulation and stuff like that. So
I mean, I'd be all there. Like, if this is reality, even though I don't love it, it's like, I'm going to try it out. I'm probably going to do stuff and like just explore it and see what's possible.
But
just the idea kind of freaks me out.
I did my first virtual reality experience with Oculus. My nephew brought it to our house, and he got it here because he told his parents, I just want Uncle Brian to see it. And he got it here and just wanted to play on it the whole time, and irritated his parents. So which was fine.
Is that when you guys checked out the Enterprise scenario?
It's not available for Oculus.
Okay.
So what we did is we went on YouTube and found 360 VR something, and I did a spacewalk, which was a lot of fun and interesting. And it was one that was very much animated. It was not a realistic, it looks like everything is real, but it was pretty wild and far out there. Like I can imagine people seeing that technology and going, what in the world, and freaking out about it.
Yeah. If you were to take someone from 50 years ago and put that headset on their face, they would be totally terrified, because to them they would think that's the reality they're looking at, And my son-in-law Brian, he has an Oculus, and he can play that for hours, and it's Star Wars game, and he just can play it and play it and play it, and he loves it because he gets him into that world he would like to be a part of.
Right.
So this isn't VR, but it felt like a holodeck, like a very primitive version. Because I was watching some behind the scenes promo stuff for a lot of the new Star Wars shows, and they were saying that, instead of using green screen and blue screen, they just have like this massive LED wall that's super high definition. And like they were saying, like we'd go onto the planet, we would feel like we were on the planet. And I'm like, whoa, that seems like a very primitive, super, super, super early version of the holodeck. And I'm like, I did not know that Star Wars was doing that.
Well, actually, they took that technology from the movie about Neil Armstrong, where he's in the X-15, I believe, and it's flying, but what they're doing is they're changing the image behind him to get that to get that reality there.
Okay. So future episode we're going to do on the podcast, we're going to talk about virtual reality stuff.
Okay.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay. Remind me to bring up the Rockettes when it comes to virtual reality. Just,
Okay.
Oh boy.
Okay. All right.
What about virtual reality Chipotle? Are you in, Brian? I'm just. We got it. Okay.
Chris and I need to hang out. If I ever come to Canada, my brother, we're gonna go to Chipotle. If you ever come to Northeast Ohio, we're gonna go hang out at Chipotle at least once.
Okay.
I also move that somehow we make Chipotle a reoccurring joke for the rest of the series.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Let's do it.
I'll go with that.